character? What does your dressing represent or showcases about you or portrays your character? Lost at sea, rush to save Titanic 5. And so far the latest is that the 5 who are aboard this particular Titanic are dead because they found out the debris. And that is the latest that so far we have. But you have all the gritty details inside the Standard this morning. Let's see what the Daily Nation is holding for us. And this is what you're waking up to, the Daily Nation. Raila, the wounded general, cornered? That is the abiding question they're asking here. Azimio Chief Raila Odinga appears to be losing his political grip amid an onslaught by President William Ruto. His troops in Parliament are shifting loyalties, while his traditional vote bastions are slowly being chipped away. Is he down and out, or will he fight back? That is the probing question. And the story is well laid out for you on page 4 and 5 of the Standard this morning. Is he a wounded soldier? And we can see the flagger here reading, politics opposition set to hold rally in city next week. How will that be? Everyone will be watching to see the turnout. We're going back to the people. This is what Karua says. And she says, quote unquote, the only time we have suffered longer than we should, the only time we have allowed dictators to rule us longer than they should, is when we have been divided. But people can never be helpless in their own country against their own leaders, not in a democracy like ours, not even in a dictatorship as they are trying to recreate. That is what Azimio Deputy Martha Karua said yesterday in Nairobi. So are we seeing any hallmarks of a dictator? I remember one of our panelists saying that we should be bracing ourselves not longer or even far away because the hallmarks of a dictator are here. Is it really coming to pass right now? That's the question. Interview, Waigoro roots for counties to spark growth. That is on page 23 of the Daily Nation. Unga prices to shoot up as millers warn of a looming maize shortage. That story on page 12 of the Daily Nation this morning. And this is 16.7 billion shillings for elderly orphans released is on the back page. Remember, the stipend had also been frozen, but now it has been released. You can follow the story inside the Daily Nation. I did not see Babu Owino shoot me, says DJ Evolve. Felix Orinda, aka DJ Evolve, has told a Milimani court that he did not see Embakasi East MP Babu Owino shoot him. You can follow the details on page 12 of the Daily Nation. Now brace yourself. Brace yourself. We're being reminded here. Brace yourself for a new reality as Ruto taxes take effect. You should brace yourself for tougher times, with commodity prices expected to rise further while incomes drop as the government's pocket raiding proposals start to take effect in a week's time. This follows Parliament's move to pass the Finance Bill 2023, which has proposed the raising of value-added tax on fuel products from 8% to 16% and the introduction of a 1.5% housing tax on employees' basic salaries charged on employer and employee. This story continues on page 7 of the Daily Nation today. And looking at this payslip here, let's just break it down briefly. Now, if you're earning, let's see what it says here. If you're earning 50,000 shillings and the payslip now, the current is new. The current is 50,000. The new also is 50,000 because there is no increment there. The pay there, if the current is 7,143, you'll have also 6,879 as pay as you earn. We can see an increase there of 1,200. That is a current, if that is a current NHIF, 1,375. You used to give contribution to NSSF 200 shillings, now is 1,080. Funding housing fund, that is yet to come in. But with the new one, okay, the old one was 0, so there was no housing fund, but the new one will be 750 housing fund. That and the deductions, you have them there. Your salary, at the end of the day, If you're taking home 41,457, you'll be taking 39,916. And of course, I can't go through the other one. If you're in the bracket of 100,000 shillings, the take home, if was 75,957, that now will be 71,545. And you can read the rest of the details there inside the Daily Nation as well. Why remarrying will be costly in proposed new law. If you're thinking about remarrying, Dr. Martin Olo and Churchill Suba, if you're thinking about remarrying, that will be costly in this new proposed law. Widower or widows stands to lose right to own property of deceased spouse. I think this is basically for the widower and the widows as well. There are details there in the Star. And this is this.
That's what the position is. That you when your spouse dies and you remarry, you actually lose that right. That's what it is. That's the law. So what's the new thing?
So there's a new costly in the proposed new law. So there's nothing new about it, because it is sort of a contract has.
Perhaps it's more to men now than it's been to women.
To the women.
It's ideally women who, anytime they remarry, they lose the right to their spouses, because then that provision comes in. But when men remarry, then the spouses that come in tend also to have rights over their assets. So
the assets.
Maybe that's the only thing, but otherwise that has been the law.
All right, that's what the Star is having for you this morning. Bill, the wealth of your dead spouse will be out of reach. And you can read all the gritty details inside the Star this morning. Three Gachagua flags off safari rally at Uhuru Park, and you can see him taking the reins there behind the wheel. Carl Tundo and Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua during the flagging off of the WRC safari rally at Uhuru Park. That is what you have on page 36 of the Star this morning. All right, on the side, but there, clash looms as Azimio calls big rally over taxes, and Chebukati name has earned me favors. Chebukati name has earned me favors. This is what Mary Wanyonyi, the wife of ex-IBC chair Wafula Chebukati, on Thursday told MPs how her husband's name helped her get favors. Wanyonyi, who was nominated chairperson of the Commission on Revenue Allocation, said she gets special treatment when it is discovered she is Chebukati's wife or spouse. You can follow this story on page 8 of the Star. Body of missing woman found dumped in river. That's another story inside the Star. And as a segue to the weekend, or to usher you to the weekend, this is Siasa, a pull-out magazine that comes in handy for you inside the Star. Why Jubilee's dream to emulate the Communist Party of China failed. Remember, they had gone to China, delegation there of MPs, to try and compare notes or benchmark with the Communist Party of China. MPs passed tough laws on alcohol. Tax collector to treat beer retailing at prices below their cost of production as illicit, as lawmakers also ring-fence housing levy from use for other projects. This story continues on page 4 of the People Daily this morning. Blow to Koome as court stops promotion. Blow to Koome as court stops promotion. Remember the row that has been going on between the National Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police regarding the promotions. And this also takes us back to where we saw a previous administration there having the same spot between the human resource function and the IG. You can follow the story inside the People Daily this morning. All right. Taifa Leo, KRA yadai fundi wa nguo milioni 1.7. That is the latest. So they're coming for the hustlers. And this is what now the tailor has to pay as tax arrears, 1.7 million shillings. And you can see it was a shock for him. This is, his name is not Mshunaji, but Joseph Omondi Oyomo, ambaye KRA inamdai malimbikizi ya ushuru milioni 1.7. That is what is on the front page of the Taifa Leo this morning. And the Business Daily. Budget sweeteners, MPs got to pass punitive taxes. 51 finance bill amendments passed by MPs. New taxes now await presidential assent. You can follow it inside the Business Daily this morning. What ESC plan to ditch dollar means for Kenya, right? The dollarization now of our economy, how will it affect us? That is a probing question. And you can see also a picture here, President Ruto in France for Global Summit. President William Ruto and his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron during the summit for a new global financing pact in Palais in Paris. You can follow the story there on page 5 of the Business Daily this morning. Now, APRA says Kenya power monopoly set to end. Right? That's the pronouncement. We're waiting for the action. And you can follow the story on page 5 of the Business Daily this morning. And look at the editorial cartoon just depicting the crisis in Sudan, humanitarian crisis so far, with the refugees seeking refuge in neighboring countries. The war continues apace in Sudan, despite the fact that they have also called out on IGAD in giving the direction or the position of IGAD to come and mediate the two leaders, and saying Kenya is not neutral. You can follow the story inside the Standard this morning. The Nairobian, why MP kicked out CS Bore from 120 million shillings house. Find out the story there, the night of long knives. And this is the new look of the Nairobian, as you can see it. You want to grab a copy of Nairobian also to get all the juicy stories. If you love gossip, it's all tucked away inside the Nairobian this morning. And why text message forced Justice Ruben Nyakundi to recuse himself from case. You can follow the story on page 9 of the Nairobian this morning as well. All right, we shall show you the retro cartoons later, but right now I just want to hear from our panelists. But before I do that, let me just give you an indication how it was yesterday in Parliament regarding the finance bill and the reactions about it, and why also Azimio are going back to the street.
The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Brigade reconvened just a few hours after the National Assembly passed the contentious Finance Bill 2023, with coalition leaders urging Kenyans to act now. The leadership had taken a backseat to allow the parliamentary process, and now the Azimio leaders have announced a date when they will give the next course of action.
We have decided to invite Kenyans to a consultation at the Kamukuji grounds next Tuesday, the 27th of June at 10 a.m., where the next course of action will be decided. Tuesday is the determinant. As we have said, an institution called Parliament gets its mandate from the people, but the people retain the residual power. The executive, the judiciary, everybody, every state officer gets mandate from the people. The people will meet at Kamukunji grounds and they will roar back.
Azimio claims that the government ignored their calls to lower the cost of living by withdrawing what they call punitive taxes.
They are getting subsidies to import cooking oil, maize, sugar, rice, among others, as we saw in the media expose recently. And this is all at the expense of vulnerable Kenyans. In this finance bill, the regime's corruption is properly budgeted for.
Speaking at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Foundation, the Azimio leadership lauded its members in parliament for putting up a spirited fight against the Kenya Kwanza's tyranny of numbers. The Kenya Kwanza brigade drew the first blood in the first round of the physical vote on the floor of the House, where it got 189 votes against Azimio's paltry 87.
As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
And went on with the same pace to the last vote, where it garnered 184 votes, while Azimio only managed 72. 6 out of 7 Azimio legislators had, however, been suspended from the House following an altercation in Parliament. After a heated session, the National Assembly passed all 87 clauses of the finance bill, including the controversial 16% VAT on fuel.
The proposed amendment as it is in clause 76, 31B3, as it is in the order paper, that the affordable housing levy not to be used for any other purpose other than the development of affordable housing.
Elsewhere, Westlands MP Tim Wanyonyi told Kenyans to brace for tough times ahead.
Kwa hivyo mjitayarishe, mfunge mishipi, nyinyi mtembee, mjue ya kwamba nyinyi ndio mliweka hii serikali mamlakani, mjue vile mnatembea na hao, si ndio? Lakini baba bado yuko.
Azimio principal Raila Odinga and the Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka are out of the country and are expected to jet back before the Tuesday's event. And after weeks of grueling contest, the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition now takes the war on the Finance Bill 2023 back to the people, with a meeting slated for Kamukunji grounds next week, Tuesday, here in Nairobi. Emmanuel Tor, KTN News, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Foundation, Nairobi.
All right, and that is all about the finance bill. And next week, where we have Azimio threatening to go back to the street, what will that really portend, especially right now that everything looking economically has really tanked and is bound to be going down, of course, with the rise of taxes on fuel as well. But let's see where it began with the finance bill.
To operate on subsidy. You guys want us to
members.
The passing of the finance bill now means that salaried Kenyans will have to contend with a lower take-home pay, with key taxes set to dent their pockets. This comes from an additional deduction of 1.5% to be channeled towards the affordable housing scheme, an increase in NHIF contribution. This will further be impacted by the increase on VAT on fuel to 16%. With higher fuel prices comes higher transport cost, and the higher cost of producing and transporting goods, a price that Kenyans will pay on the shelves as they look to meet their daily needs for different commodities.
The impact is going to be, in my view, shocking because some of those costs, unfortunately, the negative side of this, those costs will just be loaded directly to the cost of the commodities that have been touched. For example, we expect an average 12 increase on the pump price of the fuel. If your town is selling maybe petrol at 180 shillings, it will push it to 192. If your town is already selling it, maybe it's very, very far flung, selling it at 185 or 190, might be go up beyond 200.
Nyangor further warned salaried Kenyans to brace themselves for lower purchasing power, saying that the implementation of the finance bill will have a huge impact on their salaries, even as he fears that the labor market could see more hemorrhaging in the near future as employers look for ways to reduce their cost.
You're probably going to get a little bit less than you got last month, and this has nothing to do with the employer. It just means that the more will go into the government in those forms. The disposable income is going to be affected. You're going to have less money. Yes, let's put it directly like that.
Among the taxes that the finance bill had proposed is the doubling of VAT on fuel from 8% to 16%, imposition of 1.5% on housing levy, an increase in pay-as-you-earn for salaried Kenyans who earn more than 500,000 shillings from 30% to 32.5%, while those earning more than 800,000 will have to pay an additional 5% in pay, among others. Despite the revenue-raising measures by the government, Nyangor argues that for the measures to bear fruits, the government will need to do a lot more in curbing wastage and harmonizing government expenditure.
We are seeing a situation where the budget to the big offices has been increased. There is no particular explanation for that. We have seen an increase in the foreign travel for that matter. We have seen an increase in unnecessary expenditure, and reduction on, for example, capital expenditure. The development side, the budgets seem not to be increased. So if you're increasing recurrent expenditure, then you are increasing taxes. It's difficult to convince anybody that you want to make the cost of living better.
As the country awaits for President William Ruto to assent to the finance bill of 2023, Kenyans are being advised to cut down on all unnecessary expenditures in order to survive the high cost of living that is about to double. Jimmy Mbogo, KTN News, Nairobi.
And there where it begins that yes, we are bound to pare down on our cost of living because right now the pain is beginning to be felt. Prices shock, as you can see on the side there, or on the split. Hustler's pain begins. Allow me just to begin with Dr. Martin Olo. Martin, good to see you. It's been a while since I saw you. And I know now you've been actually analyzing and trying to look keenly on how we're going to survive. So what are you going to pare down on? Let's just begin with you first of all.
No,
before we talk about Kenyans.
At a personal level, I have to make very conscious decisions as to what I do about certain things. For example, how much traveling can I do given the cost of fuel? So that's a decision. What kind of...
so you need to be very strategic on your logistics.
Absolutely. But even at a personal level, I need to rethink what costs I must incur and which ones I must avoid. But more importantly, from a kind of an employer, because I'm an employer, I have to make very strategic decisions. Who do I put on a payroll? Who do I not put on a payroll? Because anybody on a payroll is supposed to, I'm supposed to pay housing levy for them. So I must make that decision. And I think I'm not alone. There are a number of people who must think that, and there are a number of corporates who must think that, a number of employers who must think that. So this week we have started a journey that is going to be fairly costly for all of us. When the government thinks that it can tax employers to the point of no breathing ability, then employers must keep on looking for ways in which they'll release themselves and get a bit of breathing space. So as government thinks of continuing to ramp and to run business as if it's normal, takes its expenditure even higher, by, from 3.2 to 3.6 trillion, it is failing to understand that it needs to cut back to give Kenyans a breathing space. Because when somebody is suffocating, it's not time for you to tighten the grip, but rather to loosen the grip. So at a personal level, and as I can see, any business person out there and any reasonable Kenyan out there, it is going to be time to reflect, time to rethink. Cost of electricity is going up.
Yeah, from next week.
Cost of fuel is going up.
From July 1st, actually. Yeah.
Cost of transportation on public is going up. Cost of everything. The landlords are going to take rents up. So essentially, what you are saying is that out of 100 shillings that a Kenyan is earning, the government is running away with more than 56%. If you are earning 35, more than 500 or 800,000, the government is running away with 35%, then VAT 16%, then levy another 3%. So everything is going up. And then when you look at it also, the retailers and the manufacturers, everybody is going to take up their costs. So really, who is the net loser here? When you push a Kenyan to the point where he holds back spending, then you have told yourself that you cannot have market money in the in circulation. So you are going to have to make do with less of indirect tax. Yes, you can get more of direct tax, but where Kenyans spend and where you need to get the money, you will not get it. Yet you are pegging your taxes, you're pegging your income or your revenue on both indirect and direct taxes. So we have serious decisions to make as Kenyans, as individuals. I wish that this government was realistic. I wish that they were awake, because I believe they are really, really in a slumberland. I think they are in a world where they think Kenyans are, but Kenyans are not in that utopia, in that bubble that they are having. So sooner than later, this bubble is going to burst and reality is going to come around. Who is going to suffer the most? The very hustler, the very mamamboga, the very local, the very youth, the very people they said they were coming to rescue. Who is going to laugh? It's the people who are vilified, those who are saying that they had taken everything up, they had run down this economy. Who is going to be embarrassed? The same people who said that the taxes were up, fuel was up, Kenyans were suffering. The question is, are these people capable of being ashamed? Do they even care? I think they lie and they continue to lie. So the irony of it is that we are going to run as if nothing just happened. Yet we know everything wrong is happening. When you see the kind of statements that Moses Kuria makes, you should not be embarrassed. You should not be ashamed. Because that is the true Kenya Kwanza position. They are contemptuous. They have conflict of interest.
So he's just a poster child of Kenya Kwanza.
Clientele basis.
Right, but a lot of leaders from Kenya Kwanza, they have not associated themselves or the position of the government with what
the president just agreed with Moses Kuria. He thinks he's right. So did the deputy president. He said he agrees with him, except that he doesn't agree on the bit about advertising. I mean, Moses Kuria is speaking for the government. He is when he proposes to reduce tax on imported oil products, that's the official position, because the people who are going to import are serious stakeholders, shareholders. And where shareholders are involved, give them relief. Let them make their money.
So you're talking about the hustler. I'm looking at Taifa Leo. It's saying KRA yadai fundi wa nguo bilioni 1.7. This is Joseph Omondi Oyomo, ambaye KRA inamdai that particular amount of figure. I want just to get a response from you.
Yes, you know, Dibal. This government has taken lying to a level that we have never seen before. Lies that are even continuing abroad, even in the statements you have highlighted. Our own head of state, His Excellency William Ruto, telling off the West. Yet back at home, the National Treasury is literally run by IMF. These are the contradictions. He's bullish, as the paper has reported here, and telling off the West about, to treat Africa as a partner. But what is happening back at home? IMF, either previous workers who are Kenyan, or IMF giving instructions on what those agents, the Kenyan agents, must do at National Treasury. Our president is talking tough about the need, to come up with poverty alleviation strategies. Yet his own budget that is coming to append his signature on,
it's poverty aggravation.
Yeah, it's aggravating poverty. When will charity begin at home? And when will this lie stop? And I agree with Martin that, when lying goes on even in church, and our bishops help to pray over it, and it is washed down their throat with the charitable giving, the handsome alms, donations, and fundraisers that there is always money for, but not for the elderly. When expenditure at State House, as we discussed last week, has outstrips 8 million in a day. And these are the people talking about poverty eradication. We understand when government says there could be workers at KEMSA that need to be laid off, that they are earning too much and killing the giant medical supplier. But of what effect is it if you laid off 200 people at KEMSA, only to spend the money saved at State House entertaining, people, bishops, who are telling endless prophecies that do not come to pass. And so these for me are the issues, that this posturing, as if, we have all of a sudden become Pan-Africanists, yet our history does not demonstrate that we have ever been anything close to being African, let alone being Pan-African. That for me are the issues that we need to address, and we need to call out these leaders for what they are. That we cannot run a country on the basis of lies. Look at the lie that the cost of living will go down because taxes have been increased. I mean, even a newborn baby who is still lactating and is yearning for naan, children who have bigger bodies and cannot survive on the mother's milk alone, also get supplements of naan. Know that the price of naan will go up once you increase taxes. But what debate have we seen in our parliament that you have shown as part of? The argument, the illogical argument, that the cost of living will go down because taxes have been increased. You don't have to be an economist to see the lie. Yet this is how these people, rode their way into power and expect to maintain it throughout, because the people do not matter. I must congratulate Kenyans for turning out in large numbers to demonstrate to this insensitive and wrong government that the finance bill and its budgetary statements were punitive, and Kenyans continue to do that even as recently as yesterday. I've seen the National Council of Churches speak out. Of course, the others who are not part of NCCK are in State House, engorging themselves on our money, increasing it to 8 million a day, exercising demons that were supposedly left by the previous regime that the current leadership was part of. And so this for me is the hour of reckoning that Kenyans, must now part ways with, because yes, they may have hoodwinked the masses that they were the messiahs Kenyans were waiting for. Now we have discovered that they are the devil reincarnate, and we must come out in our boldest moments, in stances, and say that we can no longer bear this. Right. And I think as soon as these prices hit the roof, anytime within a week, this regime will come to discover that Kenyans are not as gullible and as foolish as they want us to believe. Right. And that for me, creates an opportune moment for the opposition to say, yes, we may have been outnumbered. Some of our soldiers, were compromised even before they were sworn in. You remember the trips to Karen, even as the current leadership kept on telling us about, not going to engage in handshake. Yet, a different kind of political banditry was being perpetrated in Nairobi, as we claim to be tackling banditry in the North Rift. Kenyans must say we have had enough of this political banditry, and if the banditry in the north, where cattle are rustled, so should be the banditry in Nairobi, where elected leaders, be they MCAs and MPs of Parliament and the Senate, are also rustled by the regime for the same obvious reasons.
Thank you.
To show up their numbers.
Thank you very much, Brian Walker. Good morning.
Good morning, Dibal.
Nice to see you as well. So, you've been following.
Brian still exists.
He resurfaced. I yanked him from that, foxhole that he was hiding. Yeah. Since politics was
he has to explain.
He has to explain
what he has
already done previously. Yeah. Okay. But Martin needs to know. For the sake of Martin.
It's been a while since I saw Martin. A great debater. We've done a lot of things together. Dibal, you remember last week, Martin was not here. We equated this government to Paul Joseph Goebbels, who was the minister for propaganda in those Hitler days.
In the Nazi Germany.
And when somebody heard me talk about it, they called me and said, when they realized that currently our president was a liar, is when he convinced Kenyans that he was not in government, yet he was the deputy president. And Kenyans bought it. And we have to tell Kenyans the truth. This is their president. They bought the narrative, they bought the lies, they bought the propaganda, and here we are. So we definitely need to ask ourselves as Kenyans whether we need to continue this way. When you add turnover tax from 1% to 3%, that is a whooping 200%.
Yes.
And you know that you're targeting the common mama mboga, who whatever amount they sell is their turnover, so they have to pay 3% of it. A boda boda guy, they're coming for that boda boda guy who earns 400 per day, that is their turnover. And they will take 3% of it. That is a whooping 200%. SMEs, a country like Kenya is literally run by small businesses, what you call small medium enterprises, like the ones Martin runs. You know, he's the one who did for us our strategic plan, so I know he runs an SME. So that you can see, if you're making 25 million, you will be paying turnover tax of 30%. And a country like Kenya, when you talk about jobs, when you talk about production, when you talk about employment creation, it's all about small and medium enterprises. So a country like Kenya that is growing, we need to literally support that particular sector to ensure that we onboard people and ensure that young people get employment. Look at what we are doing. So if you're making a turnover of 25%, regardless of whatever profits you're making, you're going to pay tax of around 30%. Again, instead of building entrepreneurs, instead of ensuring that young people create employment, we are literally telling them, consume, do not produce. Because if you produce, we will tax you. Look at the public service tax. From 2,400 to 5,000. That is, again, tax of more than 100%. So, Dibal, I don't know where we are headed as a country. When I hear a sitting minister talk to the media the way he did, and a sitting president literally telling us in very simple language that who will protect me? I need Moses Kuria to protect me as a president. The president of the Republic of Kenya. The president telling the people of this country that who will protect me? The likes of Moses Kuria. So basically what the president is telling us, that Moses Kuria is his spokesman. That Moses Kuria talks like that because he has allowed him to talk like that. I think we are losing it as a country. And I think Kenyans are now getting impatient.
All right. So we have Edwin Sifuna, who is now moving a motion to have him censored. Do you think now that is headed in the right way? And looking at Chapter 6, does he also fit to be in this particular office?
You see, the thing is that there are a number of ways in which a public official can be checked. Besides, what one can call him to account in terms of what the president can call him to account as a cabinet secretary, the National Assembly, the Senate have they have this tool, the censure motion, or indeed an impeachment motion where it applies, is a check, is a weapon to check excesses of a public official. So yes, the censure motion is important, and even if they don't achieve the final bit of having him censured and having him even sacked, it is important to bring up the debate. So for me, what Sifuna is doing is right. Calling Moses Kuria to account is right, and of course what Moses Kuria is doing is also very interesting, because he is not apologizing, he is repeating it all over, and he starts by what he said. So his view, as much as he has a right to, his own view and freedom to express himself must be met with the censure motion that also calls him to account, because he holds a public office. He is not there as an individual, and therefore he cannot do whatever he wants to do and get away with it. He must be called to account. So the censure motion is important, and the debate around it is important, and the issues that are going to be generated from it are critical in terms of increasing our awareness and building public consciousness, because we must call out what is wrong to be what it is, and that way then Kenyans will know. Because at the end of the day, even as Brian says, we made this bed, we must lie in it. Painful as it might be, with thorns that it must be, but we must keep on telling them, yes, you made the bed, this is the mistake we made, and this is the alternative that you should have made. So the censure motion, or rather, if you look at it in terms of the totality of it, and even when you're looking at the issues in Parliament, the tyranny of the majority must be always met with the wisdom of the minority, so that even as they have their way, minority must have their say. So losing or not losing, it's important to mount the debate. So that's why I think I agree with any proposals that came from the opposition side. Even if it didn't carry the light of day, it was important. In fact, I had criticized them at some point and saying, look, do not just tell us you don't like what you're seeing, give us alternatives. Because if you don't give us alternatives, then you are not being the alternative government. So, Moses Kuria must be censured, and whether he gets to leave office or not is not the issue. The issue is he will have had, Kenyans will have had, and we will be better because we didn't keep quiet. We spoke out.
We spoke out. Right, I wanted just to follow that with the issue that now is in court. We have petitioners who, I think the leading lawyer is Kibe Mungai, who are seeking to get a clarification on who has the majority numbers in the House, especially when we are looking at party hopping and deeming as it is right now. Can this, from a legal perspective, affect any passage of bills that have been done, or that is a non-issue, so to speak?
There are two things here, Dibal, and it's okay. I mean, I saw the Prime Cabinet Secretary talking about the majority they have, and a reporter was asking, this is debatable. The question here is, there are two things here. Whether they have majority or not, when it comes to voting, every member of the House is free to vote according to their conscience and choice. That said, party ranks can call to order any of their member who is increasingly violating the party position. But even that is a very thin line to pursue, especially in the new constitutional dispensation. Because the right to express myself must be respected against any violation, in the sense that you cannot gag me to toe a line that I may not be agreeing with. Freedom of conscience, freedom of thought,
freedom of association.
Yeah. So there is that element in the constitution. So one has to be very careful. Look at what's happening in the Republican Party right now with the Speaker and even the diehards there. You may disagree, but censuring or gagging does not always work in that respect. So the issue about majority and minority, we were helped by none other than the Speaker of the National Assembly, who is a lawyer by himself, by turning a blind eye on it and waxing himself lyrical around excuses and around evading accountability. So the Speaker has said, and once the Speaker makes that ruling in the House, it stands because then the Speaker's ruling. The courts will as well come up and say, yes, these guys may not. But the reality is that numbers shift, and once they have shifted, and Brian is here, he'll tell you that in this country of ours, loyalty is not to an ideology, loyalty is not to a political party, loyalty is to the stomach. And Moi told us about Tumba ideology, and we never had it. No, Moi had a very interesting way of looking at Kenyans. In the hindsight, we should actually be looking at him and studying him and understanding him better. What Ruto has professionalized or has actually made his rule of thumb is to compromise people through whatever means possible. So what is your need? We'll meet you at it. Come and meet with us. And he started from the word go. He raided UDM. Of course, his target is to destroy, to dismember Azimio. And in part, that's okay. If you are a leader, you must be working hard to strengthen your side as you weaken the other side. Mm-hmm. So it's the responsibility of the other side.
It's just politics.
It's politics.
Mm-hmm.
So they should be working hard to see. But you see, increasingly every day, it's Azimio that is bleeding. It's Azimio that's bleeding. Because its members, in the day, are with them, in the night, they're on the other side.
All right.
Political exigencies.
Okay, so we need to also to look at what Raila is doing right now with the resumption of protests next week, as we've heard from Martha Karua, the deputy leader of Azimio, and also try and see the political chutzpah of Raila Odinga himself. Was his Achilles' heels began when he joined, or he had a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta. Was that the downfall now, or the beginning and the slippery slope of Raila's political career with a handshake that now he cannot come? As we can see there, they're saying the wounded general, Azimio chief, this is of the Daily Nation, Azimio chief Raila Odinga appears to be losing his political grip amid an onslaught by President William Ruto. His troops in parliament are shifting loyalties while his traditional vote bastions are slowly being chipped away. Is he down or out, or will he fight back? And there was a very interesting editorial cartoon as well, where every member, he was trying to sit actually on the voting ballot of the National Assembly on this finance bill, but we could see we had the legislators creeping off that particular box. So has he really lost handle of his political career, so to speak,